I'm a hog you, babe.
AM 950, the progressive voice of Minnesota. It is the Matt McNeil Show. It is my absolute privilege and pleasure and delight to welcome back to the show Robert Baril, comedian extraordinaire. He is going to be on the Leap Day. This is an easy one to remember. On the 29th, a week from today, he'll be at the 318 Cafe in Excelsior at 8 p.m. Tickets are available. I'll put the link out a little bit later on. Robert, how are you, my friend?
I'm doing great. How are you, Matt?
I'm doing well. Where you've been? Yeah, have you done many shows outside of the state lately in other big cities?
Yeah, almost exclusively. Where have I been? I was in North Carolina 2 or 3 weekends ago.
That's
There's
right.
a club called the Idiot Box there, so I was in North Carolina. Calgary, I was up in Canada, Cowtown, doing a week at the Comedy Cave.
How did that go up in Calgary?
Oh, that went well. They're not big fans of Justin Trudeau in Calgary. That may come as a shock. So I did a few blackface jokes that they really enjoyed.
Wow.
Up there. So that yeah.
Well, they copied a little bit of MAGA in those two central provinces in Saskatchewan and Alberta. They do kind of love that far right mentality there.
Oh yeah. So I mean, I since obviously I do have that political bent, it didn't take too much to switch the targets from some of my more likelier ones to other ones that they would enjoy even more. So yeah, I kind of ridiculed Trudeau a fair amount. They definitely enjoyed that.
I want to ask you, because I don't think I've ever asked you about hecklers. And, you know me. You've done comedy around me. I get giggly. So there's no heckling coming from me. I just laugh.
Yeah.
And I think most people are like me. They just kind of laugh. It always amazes me, someone that goes to a comedy club and decides this is my job is to heckle. Where do you have a town that's always been bad for heckling?
No, I think, at least for me anyway, rarely is heckling an issue. And I think a lot of it has to do with my style and my delivery, because it is very like rat-a-tat-tat rapid fire. And so I usually start out of the gate kind of, I know a lot of comics like to start with crowd work, but I've seen that go wrong because, you know, if the crowd is drunk or they're ornery or whatever, and you're kind of giving them license to take over. And so I like to come out of the gate just kind of guns blazing with, one joke after another. And then I kind of condition them to almost like self-police a little bit if there is some kind of chatter. So rarely do I have hecklers, because I don't do the rhetorical questions. Oh, yeah. What do you guys want to talk about? Who here? You know, I already know what I'm going to say. So unless I have to do crowd work, or there have been a few times. For me, it's more of an issue of, and this happened at Running Aces a few weeks ago for the Late Show. Like the entire left side of the room just wasn't into me, and so it was like, and I imagine they weren't seated that way, but like the right side of it was on board, was laughing. And the left, ironically, it was the left that let me down, and so I eventually just kind of playfully tore into them a little bit. And it's weird because if you make fun of them for not laughing, then they kind of enjoy it, or at least they did. And then but it was so. I guess my issue more is people just like staring blankly at me while I perform, because it's like, well, give me something, give me a response here. Like even if you actively dislike me, I don't like me half the time either. So we're going to find common ground if that's it. But just, give me something here.
It's not German art house, for God's sakes.
Yeah, exactly. Like, is English your second language? Is this is anyone mourning anything over here? Did you have a loved one die recently and you want to bring that energy to my show? Like, let me know where you're coming from.
Have you ever had one really bad heckler that you just said, okay, I'm putting you in your place right now?
I'm trying to think.
I've heard.
What I usually get.
I've heard from some comedians that it's like it depends on the comedian, because there's a lot of comedians that rarely, if ever, like yourself, get a heckler. And I think it is, you just nailed it, is that the guys that kind of go in and know what they're going to talk about there. But there are other comedians that they're almost anticipating hecklers.
Oh, yeah. Like I don't know how much of the audience remembers, but I know, Mike Lester, one of my best buddies in comedy, a real goofy dude. And Hill, I think just because he dresses so outlandish and says such zany things, that I think he kind of often invites the heckling a little bit. And then, like, no one's better at destroying a heckler than Mike, because he's had so much practice at it. But, there are definitely comics that invite it. And I think I have to be careful too, because my responses usually tend to be pretty sharp and cutting, and I've learned that I can, depending on what I say, I can go from being like everyone's enjoying the show to being like the bad guy in an interaction pretty quickly if I don't watch myself. So I try to balance a decent amount of self-deprecation in it, or if it's a heckler that clearly everyone is against and stuff. But it is a delicate line for me to walk in many ways, just because with what I'm prepared to say and how I say it, I have a very good stranglehold on the audience's perception of me. Like, this is what they're seeing. This is how they... And... if it's just a drunk lady and I sit, a zinger that Lester could probably get away with because he's goofy and stuff. And then you have a guy that looks like me, and it might be seen as punching down or whatever. And not to say I couldn't pull it off, but it's certainly, it's not anything I feel comfortable doing. So if anything, I'll try to just maybe talk over it or talk a little faster. And then in my experience, who's ever with the person will kind of self-police. You'd be like, shut up, we're missing what he's saying, and stuff like that. So,
was it Bill Burr? I was listening to the Smartless podcast a few weeks ago, and they were talking to a comedian, and he was saying Bill Burr apparently walked out into a stage, and I guess it was in Philly, and they hated him.
Oh, yeah.
And he basically tore the crowd apart for 20 minutes, and by the time of it, they were cheering for him. That's amazing.
Yeah, I mean, that's Philly, too. Yeah. But, that was one of those, like, going viral before viral was anything. But I encourage anybody that hasn't done it to go on YouTube, and after buying tickets for my show at the 318 Cafe next Thursday, I encourage them in Excelsior, Minnesota. I encourage them to YouTube Bill Burr Philadelphia, because it's this outdoor comedy show, so it's already not great, and it's in Philadelphia, strike two, and everybody is drunk and horrible, and so Bill Burr basically craps all over the whole city, makes fun of their sports heroes. They have a statue made of Rocky. Like, that's, it's not even a real guy. Like, that's your peak of athletic. And then he counts down the amount of time he has left. And I mean, it's definitely, I've had a few, now that you got me down that train of thought, I guess I have had a few drunken bar shows where it is kind of the Wild West. And fortunately, I've done enough terrible open mics and wild open mics where you just kind of have to, and it's a skill that, you don't want to develop, but it's probably good to have it through the course of doing however many bad shows and stuff or whatever, where you're like, well, I'm not going to get any prepared material done because everyone is drunk and has no attention span. So I'm just going to have to make fun of people the whole time. And then you just kind of try to stereotype the people, not racially, but like, okay, this is the town drunk. This is the town floozy. This guy's corrupt. This guy. And then you just kind of have conversations and do callbacks and bounce around and stuff like that. And do whatever you can to get out of there.
I think it's that, but isn't that really kind of the hurdle for comedians, that if you are serious about it, you've got to go through the Andy Dufresne sewer crawl of a show and get out on the other side of the pipe. And that if you can do that, guess what? You're going to be a successful comedian. You're going to have some success. If you can't, well, maybe you find a different job, really.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think it also depends, too, because there are some comics that I love and are super funny, but they're definitely more slower paced, more thoughtful, more And it's just a matter of like, well, they're just not going to do those shows. There won't be asked because there's so many different kinds of shows and stuff. But it's definitely, you're going to get offered a lot more of the bar shows and stuff like that as well. But it's certainly, if anything, it's just another tool to have in the belt that allows you, if you do find yourself unexpectedly with a horrible drunken show on your hands, that you're like, then I think like the Bill Burr thing is a perfect example of, you know what, if there's one or two people here that are actually paying attention and get comedy, and I'm getting them to laugh, I'm just going to play to them the whole time, and I'm going to make fun of the town, I'm going to make fun of everything in here, and because at that point, and I don't know whether or not Bill Burr had gotten paid yet, but I know there's been a few times where I've gone there and it's the vibe isn't good and everything, and I'm like, if you want a good show, pay me now because I'm not running away, but pay me now, and because once you do get your money, you're like, okay, this is just all right. This is whatever. You're a bit more confident, and you're like, okay, well, this is because normally, unless they're just imbeciles, like comedy people get like this isn't ideal. So rarely do they like, oh, how come you couldn't win over all these troubled alcoholics with the big buck hunter machine next to you and the dartboard right by the stage and that guy that the ambulance had to take? You couldn't win over that crowd? What's the matter with you?
It is not an easy business, man. You guys, you've got talent, my friend. Are you currently wearing a pair of Trump high top sneakers?
I am not. No, I don't even think those are. I think no one's going to get them for like a few more months, right?
Well, there are at least 4 or 5 industrial health hazards associated with those sneakers that I think there's not to be worn on the feet or touched by humans. There's going to be so many disclaimers in that packaging when it gets there.
Do they allow you to like leap over indictments in a single bound? Like, what is the benefit to the Trump shoe? Like, isn't it supposed to be athletes that come out with shoes? Like, this doesn't even make sense. Like, if it was a veto pen or something, sure, but like, are you supposed to wear them when you putt? Like, it doesn't make any sense to me.
Yeah, we should get a pair. Each one get a pair, and then go to a golf course. And go play around and golf with these god-awful shoes.
When you're on your way from one trial to your next trial, do it in comfort. Do it in style.
God, it's nice that you're coming over on the west side here, man.
I am, yeah. I didn't even know where Excelsior was when I booked it. I'm like, what is this? What is this, King Arthur magical land? And then I looked it up and was like, oh, that's just St. Louis Park, Hopkins, that over there. So, yeah, it'll be fun. I haven't been in that part of the city in a long time. I used to live in SLP, but even I didn't go west. I always went east. So I actually went there yesterday and dropped off some flyers and stuff for the show. And it's a cute little town.
Oh, Excelsior's great, man. And it's a good night out too. And you're on Leap Day. Was that by design or just it happened on the calendar?
That's when they wanted to do it, and I was certainly free on a Thursday, and it's a door deal, so I would love for people to come. If this was a set fee, I probably wouldn't have even hit you up, Matt. I would have been like, I'm making my $200, and I am phoning this. Not that I ever phone in, well, sometimes, but this is a door deal, so I need people to come to this bad boy. And if you haven't, I would imagine most people on your show are a little familiar with my stuff, but if they're not, look me up and come check out the show.
Get his comedy albums. Go over to iTunes. Go get the comedy albums. They're fantastic. You will roll with that. You will also roll in Excelsior on Leap Day on the 29th, next Thursday, the 318 Cafe, 8 p.m., $20 at the door. I'll put the link out there so people can get out there. Let's fill it up. Let's fill that place up for Robert.
I would love that. Thank you.
It would be fantastic if we could. Robert, as always, you're always welcome here, man. I look forward. Maybe I'll try to swing over there on Thursday, all right?
Yeah, please do. It'll be fun to hang out.
All right, man. You take care. Robert Baril, kind enough to join us. We'll take a break. Come on back. It's the Matt McNeil Show right here on AM 950.